Saket, we have around 18 plus participants who have already
Okay.
joined. Hope we
Okay.
can start for the day.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
So I hope you have revised all the stuff what we discussed day before yesterday in the last session.
Yes, sir.
Ye-
Any
Yes.
doubts from there?
Yes.
Any doubts there?
No, it's good.
Okay. So by any chance, if someone has got that CLR with C Sharp book, the PDF version,
Oh, yeah, Saket, I got it.
you have it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe you can share that over the chat here itself so that everyone can benefit from the same.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. So it is pretty useful book to understand how exactly .NET Framework works, the overall architecture, which assists us later on in writing the more effective and more optimized code so that it just performs well as per the standards and there are no loopholes. I mean, whether it is regarding the memory utilization, the CPU utilization, or if we talk about the security implementation, in all areas, basically, this book will help you. It will provide the guidance. Okay. So let's get started with today's session. We'll be starting with the Hello World program in C Sharp, first of all, to understand the structure of the C Sharp program, the basic syntaxes and all, the control structures, typical C Sharp basic programming. And then we'll be moving into the object-oriented programming. So which starts with the concepts of object-oriented programming, what object is, what object-oriented programming is, what makes a certain language object-oriented programming language, where we talk about pillars of object-oriented programming, and then more discussion on classes, objects, constructors, methods, properties, etc. Where we will be focusing mainly on the implementation of these things. Okay. So while going through the basic syntax and the Hello World program, actually we are also going to see the use of something what we call as ILDASM tool, which will help us understand what exactly the structure of .NET program is. Okay. So I hope everyone has got Visual Studio installed. Yes.
Yes.
Uh, can someone let me know which edition, which version you have? Is it VS 2022 or 2019?
For me, it's 2019.
Okay. So though it will not make much difference as such, except few things in the UI, most of the stuff you will find same. Little bit of adjustment to start with will be required, but once we are used to it, we probably need not worry about the difference in the version because the C sharp code remains C sharp code. Doesn't matter which version of Visual Studio you use. So to start with, actually, we are not going to use Visual Studio for the Hello World program. We'll be doing everything from scratch with the help of some text editor, could be Notepad, could be Notepad++, or any similar editor, which doesn't have any support for the Visual Studio type of things. We are not looking for the rich debugging tools and all. Practically for Hello World program, we don't need that. So I'll probably make use of this Notepad++ tool itself. You can use Windows Notepad, you can use any other text editor. Okay, so here I go for a new file. And my intention is to write a simple C# program which displays the string hello world on the screen. Got my point? Let's see how actually it is going to be done. So it all starts with a class. Now, why class? The details about class and object orientation we will be discussing later on. But here we need to understand why just to display hello world, I need a class. So practically here you need to know that your all of .NET languages are precisely object oriented languages. Okay. The official ones from Microsoft precisely are all object oriented languages. Now, when you say that my language is an object oriented language, even if you want to display a string on the console, basically that code also needs to be in the boundary of some object only, or probably the ownership of that code should be there within the limits of some object. And that's where we start with something called as class. I hope that is clear. Without object, you can't even display a simple string. That's the point at the core level. So you have a class called as program. The basic structure of the C# program is quite similar to C++, and that's why the scope is decided by the opening and closing curly braces, which you can see on line number 2 and line number 4. Yes, here, if you are using a simple text editor, the indentation of the code has to be taken care of by you explicitly. Once you move into Visual Studio, most of the time the indentation will be taken care of by your Visual Studio only by default. It assists you in writing good code. Okay. Next thing is I need an entry point for my application, which will be static void main. This is also quite similar to what you see in C++ and also in Java language. You have a main method which becomes your entry point. Just one small difference you will see. The M of main in the name is capital. Rest all the things are same. The reason why M is capital is because the coding conventions in .NET say that all identifiers except the ones for variables should be starting with capital letter, or rather I would say should be using the Pascal case where first letter of every word is capital. Understand? For variables, camel casing is used. First letter of first word is small. Subsequent letters are definitely smaller ones only. But then subsequent words first letter will be capital. That is camel casing. Okay. Now void main, because I don't want main to return anything. The other type that can be used in place of void is int. This is useful when this program is going to be invoked by some other program, maybe a .NET program or maybe PowerShell script or command line script or maybe shell script or whatever it is, where you want the status of your program denoting the successful execution or failed execution is supposed to be returned. So that's where the int is used. Otherwise, if it is going to be a standalone program, even if you say there is a return type int, it is of no use because no one is going to capture it and no one is going to work upon it. So we go with void. Void means nothing. Got my point? And here I complete the
Yes.
body of the main by associating curly braces, opening and closing. Now, one question here. In Java also you find main as static. In .NET also, you find main as static. Any specific reason why this is actually supposed to be static?
Because in CLR, we store the main, uh,
Mhm.
that's why. Because rest of the program are not stored, only the main part are stored in the memory.
Uh, Say somewhat near to what exactly it is expected here. Uh, Main is supposed to be the entry point, means that's where the program starts. Correct. So in a way, you are correct also that main has to be loaded first in the memory. It's not like that it is by default stored. In fact, even a single line of code written somewhere in the function, some other function also is loaded in memory for execution. But the thing is, main is supposed to be loaded automatically, right? And that's where we call this as entry point of the program. But the point is, main belongs to a object. When I say main belongs to an object, does CLR know how to instantiate that object? Does CLR know how to create instance of program class? That's not the capability of CLR. Until and unless you don't give the instruction to CLR that please do create an instance of an object, it will not do that on its own. So on its own, it cannot instantiate any object without instruction. And main being the first instruction said, definitely, how can I write some code outside main which instructs CLR that please create the instance? That is why main is supposed to be static. Whether it is Java or .NET, it is the same reason. So your CLR basically uses the class name dot main as the name of the function, the main function, and starts executing it. I mean, definitely the process like loading it into the memory, getting it compiled, putting it into code cache, and then execution being started is all taken care of by CLR then, right? So in simple words, CLR cannot create objects on its own or object instances on its own. That's why main is static. Understood?
Yes.
Static
Yes.
members are not required to be called or used with an instance of an object. They can be called or used directly
Automatic.
by the name of the class being used as fully qualified name of your member. Understand?
Yes.
Okay. Just like any cab service that you might be using, whether this cab belongs to Ola or Uber, the main identification whether it is belonging to Ola or Uber, right? I'm taking an Ola ride or I'm taking an Uber ride. There is no specific instance as such, right? I don't say that, okay, I need this cab only all the time. I cannot do that. If it is available in the area by any chance, then there is a possibility, but that's rare because the cabs roam around the city all the time, right? And the cab which you might have liked might be traveling in other part of the city already by the time you're requesting it again. Yes or no? It's a shared service.
Yes.
Anyone can request, anyone can use. Uh, to use it, someone has to actually check for the availability with the service provider, Ola, Uber, whatever it is. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what the reason why it is static. Now here goes the executable code. I say there is a string variable called as message assigned to hello world. And then I say console, where console is a class built into .NET system coming from a namespace called a system and contains a static method of its own named as write line. There is another method called as write. On the top, the output looks the same. Just one difference. When you use write, the next output will be on the same line. Whereas with write line, the new line is inserted at the end of your output so that the next output will be on the next line. Understood?
Yes.
So write with /n somewhere in the string at the end is what write line is. Okay. Here I say display the message variable or whatever the value it contains. Got it? Now I said write line is a static method belonging to the class called as console, built in into .NET. Now what is system here? I said namespace. What is namespace? For this, you have to refer to C++. C++ introduced the concept of namespaces. Anybody knows about it?
Basically, it's a collection of classes, inbuilt classes.
Correct. So just a small correction. It is logical grouping or logical collection of the related types. Not only classes, it may have interfaces, it may have um, structures, it may have enums, it may have delegates. These are the 5 things which we consider as types in .NET: class, struct, enum, interface, and delegate. Can someone note down? Class, struct, enum, interface, and delegate. These are all called as types. And a logical grouping or collection of these types, related types, I would say, is namespace. Clear? So just like to keep the related files together, whether it is Word document or Excel sheets or PowerPoint presentations, we create folders. Folders are just logical units, right? There is no physical existence of the same. I cannot see folder. Yes or no? Just like that, here we have namespaces to keep the objects related to each other or supporting each other into one single space. Something similar to this in Java is what we call as package. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
I hope this is clear. Now code is done. I want to save this file. Definitely without that, I cannot compile it. So I just say file save. It's the first time saving, so it will ask me where and by what name I want to save. So on desktop only, I want to save it within a new folder. I'll name this as Quinnox. Within that, I would be looking for another folder called as demos. You can create this folder on C drive as well, C drive, D drive, whatever applicable. In this, I'll say there is a new folder called as C sharp. And this is where I want the file to be saved. Now, change the save as type to all files. If Windows Notepad you are using, there must be an all files option available. If it is Notepad++, that's all. Depending on which text editor you are working with, this is supposed to be checked and changed. And then the file name should be put into the double quotes so that whatever extension you give is considered. Here I say the name is CS underscore demo, CS for C sharp underscore a separator. It's a demo, so demo, and then the name of the demo. Let's say hello world dot CS. Dot CS is the extension for all C sharp files. Understood?
Yes.
Save it. So your file is saved. What is next? We want to compile this, correct?
Yes.
For that, let's open the command prompt, developer command prompt, not just command prompt. You have Visual Studio installed already. So I'll go for developer command prompt. Now, the name of this option will depend on which version of Visual Studio you have. So developer command prompt for 2000 Visual Studio 2019 or developer command prompt for Visual Studio 2022 or whatever. Select the corresponding tool. The command line opens like this. Go to the path where your code has been kept. So in my case, first I need to go to the root drive. From there, I need to switch to users, a user named as Saket, followed by okay, let me see what is the further providence structure, folder structure, I mean. Here, most likely it should be belonging to OneDrive in my case. So I say CD OneDrive. Oh. Here I have desktop, so I say CD desktop slash Quinnox slash demos slash C#. If we know the entire folder structure, probably in one single CD statement itself, we can reach there. CD is change directory, right? So practically here,
Yeah.
the path displayed should be the same where you saved your file. Understand?
Yes.
Here, if I issue the dir command, I should be able to see my C# source code file, csdemo.helloworld.cs, right? Any other file can you locate here? This is the only file, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
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 So now we are at the correct path. I hope you are also at the correct path. I want to compile the source code file. I use the C# compiler. What was the name we discussed? CSC, right? CSC stands for C# compiler space the name of the file with extension. So it is cs underscore demo hello world.cs. By default, the output is going to be targeted as exe. If main is there, it will be compiled successfully. If main is not there, or if any spelling mistake is there, case mistake is there, it will say there is no entry point found. Hence, compile it either as DLL, means class library, or give a proper main. Press enter. If there is no error in the code, just couple of blank lines, it will display apart from the compiler version and all. And then the prompt will be back. And now if I issue dir command, I do see another file here, cs underscore demo hello world.exe. Yes or no?
Yes.
I want to get this executed now. So here I say cs underscore demo hello world without any extension, without any other command, just file name. When I press enter, it looks like this is final executable, but you know, it's not. This is still assembly. which contains IL code that needs to be JIT compiled. But the thing is, you don't need to do anything. Your file contains enough information into it, embedded into it, which lets the system know that, okay, there is some further action required. CLR needs to be loaded. After loading the CLR, basically the JIT compilation process has to start. The code cache needs to be built. Code needs to be put there. And then from there, it should be executed. Okay, so this is all the work taken care of by your system behind scenes. Let's press enter and immediately we get the output. And because of the speed, actually, we get the feeling that, okay, this might be a final executable file only. But no, these compilation things have happened in the backend and the process is quite quick. It's multi-threaded, so it is taken care of pretty fast. Understood?
Yes.
Yes.
Now I want to see the assembly structure over here. So here you type ILDASM. Intermediate Language Disassembler is the full name of this tool. I repeat, Intermediate Language Disassembler is the name of this tool. Understood? Space, the name of your exe file with extension. So here I say cs underscore demo hello world.exe, exe or DLL file, whatever it is that is created in .NET, compiled using .NET, can be opened in this tool IL disassembler. Press enter. A window similar to this opens up. I hope everyone got it. What do you see here? The name of your file. There is a section called as manifest. Couple of namespaces included by default. Probably these are system namespaces being used behind scenes. Your program class structure is there. This is like UML diagram. You can see the icon is taken from UML only to represent class. If I expand this, I do see further things. The class definition, the constructor, the main. We only talk about the case that language automatically puts a default constructor if you haven't created one. Yes. Here we can see, practically we can see there is a constructor. .ctor represents constructor. Okay. Now let's see what is there in manifest section. Double click on manifest. This is what the contents of manifest section are. So here you see there is assembly definition, which contains the name of the assembly. Remember, in the previous session, we said what are the contents of assembly, what it contains in the manifest. It contains the name of the assembly, the version of the assembly, as we have not given any version explicitly by default. First time it took 0.0.0.0, and then here onwards it will be incremental build based on how much changes you are making it. Right? And then optionally there is digital signature or signing key. We have not given any signing key as of now. So the signing key portion is missing from here. Name of the assembly, the version of the assembly, and signing key of the assembly if available. These are the three things you find. And along with that, the same three information about each assembly which your program is depending on or using directly or indirectly also comes here. So there is one assembly that every .NET program actually depends on and uses it. That is mscorlib, where mscorlib is actually a DLL file whose full name is Microsoft Common Object Runtime Library, which actually represents your base class library in .NET, which contains all the ready to use features or the features provided by .NET out of the box belong to this file, belong to this DLL. So name of the assembly, the version of the assembly applicable here is 4.0.0.0, and then the public key token, which is basically the signing key. So if I get a duplicate mscorlib file which replaces the original one, it may have the same name, it may have the same version, but the public key token will never match. Even if someone plays some tricks and gets the public key token matched, the private key is not revealed anywhere, it will never match, and your program will refuse to load that duplicate mscorlib file, fake mscorlib file. Do you get it? Who does that? Code verifier. Got it?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is your manifest section. Let's close this. These two are system things, so we'll not get into that. My class definition, I'll just double click on. So just double click on the option with that red triangle and you get this. So what all things you have there? Class definition. So there is a class. By default, I didn't give any access modifier, so it took it as private. The name of the class is program. We usually say in object-oriented programming languages that if your class is not inheriting from anything, by default, it gets inherited from the super base class of everything in the framework, that is object, which is actually visible here. It says the program class actually extends object, which comes from the system namespace built into mscorlib. Again, the base class library. Extend means inherits from. Yes, which proves that everything in .NET is actually object. Understood?
Yes.
Let's close this. Let's open the constructor. So double click on the .ctor option. Here you have constructor definition. Usually we define constructor as a special method invoked by your runtime automatically when the instance being created. So you can see the proof. It's a method. It's a public one, right? Special name says that it's a special method. There is no specific name as such. Then instance based means via instance only this can be used. Void as it doesn't return anything. .ctor says it's constructor. And then what is this CIL managed? CIL is common intermediate language. Managed means it's managed by CLR. We discussed all these things the other day. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the code over here, whatever the constructor is doing. As of now, I can see it's just calling or chaining with the base class constructor, which is there in object class. Yes. And look at this code. LDARG.0, that is load argument 0. Call, no operation. Ret means return. What does this code look like? At some point in time, you must have seen, if not program, but at least you must have seen the assembly language somewhere in your academics. Isn't it looking like assembly?
Yes. Yes.
Right? So 90% it's same only, just that it has been made specifically for .NET, optimized for .NET. A different name was given to it called as IL code. Here is main. It's a static method, so you can see that yellow S in the pink box. Pink box means it's a method. Yellow S means it's static method. Let's double click on this. and see the corresponding window here. It's a method. In this case, there is no special name mentioned. I didn't give any access modifier, so by default it took as private. Name of the method is main, return type is void, it's static, and again it's a managed one, right? It's an entry point as well. And then here goes the IL code. So there is some string being initialized, then no operation, string assigned to the value as hello world loaded in memory, right? Put it into the location 0. This is virtual location address. Then load that location and then call system.console.writeLine and pass that string which is loaded. So it automatically displays the string value on console, then no operation and return. I can write the code entirely in IL as well. But then you can see the structure of this language is pretty low level. And as on today, we don't have time to get into all these things. Client needs the solution as quickly as possible. Yes or no?
Yes.
And if your language compiler is capable of writing this code for you, where you are writing it in high level language, why not take the advantage of that? Why I should be writing this IL low level code? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So this tool is pretty useful to see the contents, the metadata of whatever the components being shared with you. Suppose your manager says that, okay, take this DLL and you have to actually integrate this DLL within your program. No documentation available. Still no worries. You can use this tool to analyze what is there in that assembly, what is there in that component, and based on that, you can write the program which consumes it. Yes or no? Can I call this as metadata viewer tool also? Yes,
Yes.
I can see some logic as well into that. If I start understanding IL, I can actually understand the full logic also. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay,
So
Yes.
can we check the DLL as well if we have a DLL files?
you can definitely same way.
Okay.
It's just the difference will be here instead of exe, you will have the extension as
Dot DLL.
DLL.
Yeah.
Yes, the real
Okay.
name
Okay.
of your assembly has to be provided. Process is absolutely same. Understood?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now let's make some changes over here. This is hard coded stuff, right? I don't want this. I want this to be taken as input. Let's say as command line argument being passed to main. For that, main allows me to accept the command line arguments, always in the form of an array of strings. Name can be anything, but usually you will find the name args being used, args being used more often. No other type can be specified for the arguments for main. Argument means parameter, right? Here I can say read args of 0. Yes, save. As I've made some changes in the code, I have to recompile my program. So I once again say csc under space cs underscore demo hello world.cs. Enter. It's compiled. And then I say cs underscore demo hello world without any extension. It says there is an exception unhandled, index out of range. Any reason why this exception being received?
Because we are not passing any argument from the main method, I think.
Absolutely. Here, the arguments needs to be passed separated by space. N number of arguments you can pass. So let's say this is something going to be hello Saket. But see, it will be just displaying hello, not hello Saket, because it took hello as first parameter, Saket as second parameter. What if I want hello Saket to be as first parameter? I just need to enclose that in double quotes, so that the program knows it is one value. Understand?
Yes.
One small change I want. Hello, I don't want to give from here. It should be generated by the system. So what changes I make here? It will be string message equals probably I can go for some string concatenation over here. So
Yes.
I can say hello space plus args of 0. Okay. Save. Compile again. Execute again. This time I'll just pass my name and I do get the output. Yes.
Yes.
Again, here, if I don't give this parameter value, I'll be facing an exception. Can I avoid this? Because having exception is not a good thing. Let's put double question mark over here, followed by empty string. Double quote without space. Save. Compile again. With the input value, it will work as it is. No problem at all. But without input value, okay, it should have checked actually. I guess it's not taking it as null, it's taking it as empty string. That's why this is not working. I just need to put a if statement in that case. So this double question mark usually is something what we call as the null coalescing operator. Otherwise, it's not coming as null, it's coming as empty string. And empty string and null are two different values. That's why this has not worked. What I do is here I put if statement. If not string, which is a data type, dot is null or empty, args of 0, then do this. So it will be ideally checking both for null value and empty value, not only just null or not only just empty. It will check for both. It's a built-in method in string type. Save, compile. Or did I miss any parenthesis? Yeah, in if statement, one extra parenthesis I missed. Save. So this is how you actually get the reporting of any syntax error. You correct it Recompile. All good. With value, it's working. Without value, oh, great. I should also check whether ARGS itself is not null. So I'll also check ARGS dot length is greater than 0, and the argument 1, I mean at 0th location, is also not null or empty. Save, compile. With value, no problem. Without value, also no problem. Got it?
Yes.
Good part of this program is basically we got to know how to use if statement, and this is quite similar to how do we use it in C#. Now, in case if it is null or empty, I'm not getting any output. What if I want some output in that case also? So I put a else statement. There I say system dot console dot write line, no input given. User should know what happened, right? Especially on command line interface. Save, compile. I'll run without any input because with input it's giving me the desired result. Without input there was a blank line only earlier. Now I'm getting the prompt, no input given. Yes.
Hi, Saket. I have a doubt.
Go ahead.
Uh, in the if condition, why are we
Yes.
checking string is null or empty? Uh, on the previous step only, we are checking that arg's length is greater than 0. No, so
See,
it
there
will
are two
check.
things. Args may be greater than 0, the length, I mean, but the value itself can be still empty or null in that case, right? Args length might be more than 0. Null also is a value. Yes or no?
But null, the length of the null is 0. No, so here you are checking
No,
condition
no,
greater than
no,
0.
no, it's
No.
not like that. Length I'm checking for args, not for the value of arg0. Understand? So suppose here if I give something like this also should be considered as no input given, no? In this case, there is an argument passed. Yes or no?
Yes.
I'm not checking the length of this value. I'm checking the length of the array, whether array has a member into it or not, which I can read. Means before I check ARGS of 0, I should check whether ARGS contains something or not. It may be null or empty in itself. I mean, ARGS of 0 itself may be null or empty, but is there a member within ARGS?
Okay.
So I give you example. There is a newly constructed apartment building. Okay. Before, let's say there is some uh, activity going on. Basically, the population control department is there who want to see how many people live in so and so address. Okay. So if it is a newly constructed building, the first thing they will ask the guard over there is there anyone staying here? If there is no single person staying in that apartment building, is there a point of them going upstairs and checking who is staying there? Not really, correct? So that is ARGS. I mean, ARGS length. If guard says yes, there is one family, but probably they are not there. They are not right now present in the building. The flat is locked. They might have gone for some outing or whatever, maybe office, maybe something else. So in that case, length will be greater than 0, but the value will be null or empty only. Yes or no? Now, if no one stays, that means I cannot read this also. The length itself is 0. There is no one staying in that building. Got my point? That's why the first check is check if there is some member or not. If yes, then whether that member itself has a value or not. Now, if it is a string type, there I'm checking if the value is null or empty. In that case, don't do anything. If there is readable value, then only process this. Understand?
Yes.
Plus, if there are more arguments coming in, ARGS of 1, 2, 3, in that case, length will be more than 0. But what if ARGS 0 has not been passed with a value? It's an empty string or it's a null string. I can give 2 or 3 spaces, right? And then the next argument. Then also this will be null or empty, this position. Yes or no? So it's a double check. Got my point?
Yes.
Okay. Like when you are driving vehicle and some traffic cop stops you, first thing he will ask you is show me your license. So practically what he checks whether you have a license or not. But the class of the vehicle you are driving is not mentioned into it. So ultimately it is considered as you are driving without license. Yes or no? Suppose you have license to drive uh, two-wheeler without gear and with gear plus a car, LMV, non-transport vehicle. But you are driving a transport vehicle means the one with yellow number plate. Or you are driving a bus or truck. You are considered as driving without license. So that's the check. Do you have license? Yes or no? No? Go back from here only. If yes, the next question is, do you have the valid license for driving this vehicle? Got it?
Yes.
Yeah. Agree.
Okay. So this is what we can do. Now, one more modification I'm looking for. What if I'm not working or I'm not looking to work with the string arguments? I probably want the program to be interactive. In this case right now, if I see the program is not interactive, program is not giving me any input that, okay, you have to enter your name or something else. I just need to know that, okay, there is an input that needs to be given. For power users, probably this is easy. They might know it. But for regular end users, can we expect them to remember all this? It will be difficult for them, isn't it?
Yes.
Like you apply for driving license and the officer says that, okay, put the application on plain paper, handwritten one. So you don't know actually what needs to be put into that application. Don't you find it difficult in that case?
Yes.
What is the real process? Earlier, there used to be printed forms. Now printed forms are there. Along with that, there is an online form also. Now with form, advantage is whatever information is required, it's mentioned into that. You just need to fill in the required things. You don't need to write everything. Yes or no? So that becomes that form, whether printed one or digital one, becomes user interactive. Yes or no?
Yes.
And that makes your life easy. So without help from anyone, you can actually fill that form. Most likely 80 to 90% things you will fill without any help. For remaining 10-20%, you might want some help, maybe someone who knows it, maybe some agent, or maybe you can just Google out and fill the things. Yes, but your time will be saved, efforts will be saved. Yes or no?
Correct.
Correct. So I want this program to be behaving more interactively. So what I want is, let's go back to the code, copy the static void main definition, comment that line with single line comment with double forward slashes, paste it back over here. I'll remove string args. Even if I leave it, that's okay. But actually, the metadata then confuses us. Again, power users may get confused, who might think that, okay, there might be some input required, and then you may not be doing anything with it, so it's useless, isn't it? So better not to give it. Got my point?
Yes.
Now, how this if statement will change? And again, copy, comment, and paste the if statement back. I just need to proceed for checking some variables availability, whether it is null or empty or not. Now that variable needs to be created first. So let's say there is string name equals to string dot empty. Then I say console dot write. I want to make it interactive, right? So I prompt the user saying enter your name. So it makes the program talk to the user. Then I receive. So I say name is equals to console dot read line. Complete line till the enter key is pressed is retrieved and assigned to name. And then what changes here? This if statement also I'll copy. Comment, paste. Instead of arg0, I'll pass name. Just one thing is required now. Name is null or empty. If not, then process. So what to process? Again, this statement is going to be changed. Copy, comment, paste. Instead of args0, I put name. Rest of the things remain as it is. Now, what is the meaning of comments actually? Comments are just some strings which are not compiled, which are not processed by the compiler. Got my point?
Yes.
Where they can be useful, not just while modifying the code. This code clutter will be ultimately required to be removed once your code is finalized, right? The main advantage of these comments is I can put the text messages over here for other developers to understand what kind of code I have written, what this code is doing.
It's mainly useful during the versioning.
Yeah, so one is versioning, but again, the main purpose is to make the code understandable, right?
Right.
I describe the code there, what this code is about, what it is responsible for, what it is doing. Correct? Let's save
Great.
this, compile. Okay, what's wrong here? Look at the error message, two errors it is showing. Line number 10, line number 11. Name console does not exist in the current context. I didn't prefix
System dot
console with
System.
system. Here and here. Save, recompile, No problem this time. I just run the program without any input and see now the program becomes interactive. It says enter your name, which I do. Again, I run it. This time I just press enter. What it says? No input given. Better version of the program, right?
Yes.
Just go through the code and see if you have any doubts. Now, one thing, how many times we are saying system, 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 system? Multiple times, right? So is there an easy way which allows me to not mention system every time? Yes, I can import the namespace in the current scope with the help of the using statement. Okay. Okay, so using system means I'm importing the system namespace in the file scope, which allows me to rewrite all these statements. I copy, comment, paste it back, and remove system. I can directly say console.write. Similarly, this statement also I can rewrite. So I just copy, comment, put it back, and remove system dot from it. Same thing I do here. Copy, comment, remove system dot, and at last this one. Copy, comment, paste it back, and remove system dot. Save, compile. Here only I got the failure earlier when I was not having system dot, right? It's visible. See the two lines here. But now it has compiled successfully and it seems to be working also. Both options with input, without input. No problem at all. Is it clear?
Yes.
So what this statement is called as? This is the namespace import statement. Namespace import statement. The equivalent thing in Java is where we say package is imported with the help of import statement. There we have keyword import. Here we have keyword using. Understood?
Yes.
Okay. Now let's talk about the other control structures. Conditional one, first one we have already seen, that is if statement. I hope that's clear. There is no doubt about it. Other conditional structure is switch, right? Let's see how exactly this can be used. I'll put the pseudo version of this. So let's say there is a variable of type int I, having some value being assigned somewhere in the code. And based on the value assigned to I want to switch on it. So I say switch I. Case 0. Number of statements. Break. Break is mandatory in C#. Without break, you cannot have any cases. Except when the case is empty. I mean, there is no code in the case. And you are looking for fall through to be used. Right? Number of cases can be there. And if none of the cases match, to handle that situation, we have default case where statements will be there. And even for default case also, if there is a single line of statement, you need to have break mandatorily. This is how switch case is used. So one difference over here with respect to C#, in fact, couple of differences. Break is mandatory in C#. Break is mandatory for all cases, including default. Understand? That's point 1. Point 2. The data types supported here are int, char means character, bool means boolean. Strings are also supported here. Date time is also supported here. So you can switch on date time data type also. Got it? Yes. C++ doesn't support strings. C++ doesn't support date time in switch case. Here we do have the support for these two data types also. Is it clear?
Yes.
Now
Yes.
one small assignment for all of you. I want you to take an input of the weekday as integer and display the name of the weekday. So considering 1 as Monday, 2 as Tuesday, likewise 7 as Sunday, and if any other value other than the values from 1 to 7 is mentioned, it should display invalid input. Doable? Purposefully easy example I'm giving here as assignment, because our focus is mainly to understand switch case. So you have got 5 minutes to get it completed. Right now we are at 10:45. By 10:50 it should be completed. Go ahead. And whoever completes it first can share the screen and show the uh, implementation to everyone. Mhm. Okay, guys, time up. Has anyone completed it?
Yes, I have completed it.
Mm-hmm. Please show on
Uh,
screen.
yes. Is it my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, SDK is not installed. That's why I can't run it. But I just write the code.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just show me from the beginning. Okay, so one step ahead you went and created a method called as getDay, right?
Yeah.
Just one correction would be required on line 7. You need to actually pass the value. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, right.
And that also you can make interactive with console
Console
dot
dot right.
read line.
Yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
got
that
it.
is
Yeah.
okay. That is okay. That's not part of logic actually. The main logic belongs to what you have done in getDay. Okay, so you have break statement for all the cases. Can I see the default case also? Yeah, that's fine. So I hope everyone has got this. It's okay if you have directly put all the code within main also as of now, because we have not discussed how to write methods and functions. So that's fine. If you know and do it, that's fine. If not, you are doing it in static void main itself, that is also fine for now. I am more concerned about the switch case construct. So how many of you have completed this? Please raise hands. Within teams, huh? Not physically. We are not in a classroom. We are in a virtual classroom.
So can I stop? Yeah.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah.
So I can see 8 people have raised their hands. What about others? It's just 1/3 number of people. Great. Number increasing. So let's take a break over here. It's 10:52. Within 15 minutes, we will be resuming. So 11:10, we will resume our session. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so is everyone back?
Yes.
Yeah.
Shall we proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So moving on to the next thing now. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Next set of control structures, looping constructs. Or iterative constructs, right? So what are looping constructs you are aware of? Mostly across languages, they are the same. Syntaxes might be slightly different from each other in different languages, but the structures are quite similar. Yes, anybody?
For
While,
For
do while, for loop.
for each loop.
Seems something wrong with my speakers. Just give me a minute. Yeah, now tell me what all iterative constructs or looping constructs you know.
for loop.
For
For each.
loop. While loop.
For each, do while.
Do
For is
while.
there, while is there, do while is there,
For each.
for each is also there. So for each was first of all introduced within .NET, later on adopted by many other languages, including JavaScript also, right? Though in JavaScript it is not called as for each, it is for or map statement only, but we have some implementation in such a way that it just behaves like for each. Correct? So for each we will keep on hold for now. Let's focus on the three elementary constructs which are there in almost all the languages. So if I talk about the syntax for the for construct, how it looks like in C++, it is the same thing in C# also. Is it like this?
First initialize, then condition, then
Condition.
Initialize
Expression.
or
condition,
initializer, then
Condition
comes the condition,
expression.
incrementation.
Expression.
and then comes increment or decrement, right? So
Right.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so whenever you are working with some array and you want to process the elements by their index number, in that case, this can be useful, or any sequential processing that you are looking for any collection or anything. That's where the for loop is going to be important. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any sequential processing, any kind of sequential processing. So here comes one assignment, pretty simple one. You might have done that multiple times in the past. I want you to write a simple C# program which takes a simple integer input. Whatever number is entered, accordingly, the number of lines of display is created, and on each line, there is a star displayed. Number of stars on each line will be equal to the line number itself. So suppose if I enter 5, there will be 5 rows getting displayed. There will be 1 star on line 1, 2 star on line 2, 3 star on line 3, 4 star on line 4, and 5 star on line 5. Go ahead. You've got 5 minutes for the same.
Can we use a nested for loop?
You can. So when I say nested, nested means for loop within the scope of
Inner
another for loop is
yes.
nested, right? Something like this. This is nested one.
Done.
Yeah, please share your screen.
Is it visible?
Yes, it is. Just one correction, console.readline will be returning you a string. You cannot assign it
Okay.
to integer.
Okay.
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 So
Okay.
you have to
Yes.
wrap this into another method. Just select console.readline and cut it. Put int.parse, parse p capital. Within parenthesis, console.readline. So console.readline will take input as string only from the console,
Okay. Okay. Got it.
parenthesis after readline, because readline also is a method, right?
Yes.
And in.parse will read integer out of it and will assign to input. Okay.
Okay. Got it.
Rest looks to be fine. Just one correction would be needed. Instead of starting the loops from 0, make it start from 1 and go up to less than equal to input.
For what? Can you repeat?
First for loop for int I is equals to 1 should be there.
Okay.
I less than equal to input. And the second one also for int j is equals to 1 to j less than equal to I. Rest is fine. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, so your thought was correct. Just some basic correction was needed.
Yes. Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so I hope everyone understood this. Yeah, someone has put the solution which converts the console.readline to integer using convert.toInt32. So both methods will work, int.parse and convert.toInt32. Here we need to understand what is the difference between the two and which one should be used. So if it is like extracting integer from a string, advisable is int.parse. Whereas if you are looking to convert some object type into int, then you use convert class. Do you get it?
Yes.
Everybody?
Yes.
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 Okay. Now let's do the same exercise with the help of while. Same output I'm looking for with the help of while loop. So you've got 5 minutes. By 11:30, you should be done. Is it done?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please share on the screen.
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yeah. Okay, so current row is 1, current row is less than equal to rows, which has been taken as input. Okay. Yeah. Uh, yeah, correct. Perfect. So I hope everyone understands this also. See, the activity is not about learning while loop. Most likely in some or the other languages, we all must have worked with this. The entire activity is just to get the idea that the while loop is available in C sharp and syntactically how it is supposed to be used. If you have worked with C or C++, it is quite the same, right? No changes at all. So let's do this same activity once more with do while now. So small changes you will require in your while implementation. So for this, you have got 2 minutes only because only a couple of changes needed. Okay, so is it done?
Yes.
Yeah, share on
Yes.
screen. Yeah, that's right. Now just one question. What is the difference between while and do while?
We executed first and then check the condition.
While condition only execute if the condition is true, but do while is if it's false also it will once it will execute.
Yeah, so for while, just one small correction there. Uh, at the beginning itself, the condition is checked. Hence, starting at the starting itself, if condition is not returning true, it won't execute at all. Whereas do will execute once for all the cases, right? Because the condition is checked after the first execution. So, and that's where we say while is pre-tested loop, whereas do while is post-tested loop. Correct? So usually if you are looking for a command line interface only where uh, you are asking the user, do you want to continue before the logic actually starts running? So at least first time he should be able to get in, and then different menu options are provided. So that's where do while will be required. While will not help. Or else you have to start by assuming while condition is true initially. You have to set the variable value to such a value which returns true for the condition, right? Which may actually cause side effects into the code. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I hope everyone understands this. Now let's consider a case where I have an array and I want the array values to be displayed as quickly as it is possible. For me, it's not important whether the values are displayed in sequence or uh, without sequence. Point is, I want each of the array value to be processed. Okay. So in that case, for, while, do while are not that efficient. Suppose I have an array defined like this, int arr, which is an array initialized to new int array of 5 elements initialized here itself. Let's say 10, 200, 3000, 40,000, and 5 lakh. Okay. I just want each of the value to be displayed without fail. Even if array is empty, I don't want any error reporting index out of bound or something. If there is nothing to be processed, it should be ignored. If there is something to be processed, it should show something. So what I do, that's where I go for each loop. I just say for each. The name itself says it all. For each means for each of the element, regardless of its ordinal position, do this processing. Syntax says either I can use the data type of the element or I can just use var also, which is one of the keyword introduced in C# 4.0. That actually means dynamically retrieve what is the type instead of pre-deciding what is the type. This is done at compile time only. So this is still early binding. This is not late binding, and this is not variant either, just like JavaScript. Variant, whereas C# or any .NET language will treat var as any other data type only statically compiled. So when I say var e for element in ARR, it's as good as for int e in ARR, because ARR members are all integer. By default, var will be taken as integer only. And there I can say console dot write line e, or whatever processing I want to do. I might be looking to calculate the sum total of all the numbers. There also I can go for each. Now remember, this for each is very, very effective in case of read operations. But if you are looking to modify the member of array or element of arrays, in that case, for each will not be helpful, because here you get a copy of the element created into your memory, separate copy. It's not something which points to the element which is there in the array. So for read only operations, for each is recommended, and it's faster than for each. No, sorry, faster than for. Now, why I made that statement that for each is faster than for? Any idea? I give you an example. Suppose there are interviews being conducted. I am conducting the interview. I'm interviewing the candidates. There is a cabin within which the interviews are going on, and there is a waiting space for just one more member outside the cabin, not more than one. So one member will be inside cabin, one member will be in waiting outside the cabin. The other candidates probably I'll ask all of them to wait in some common space like canteen or maybe the lobby at reception and something like that. With for, how the processing is going to happen. There will be not a single waiting space outside the cabin in case of for. I myself go to the reception. I take one candidate within cabin with me. I interview him. Then once the interview is done, I go back with him to the reception area. I drop him and then ask the next candidate to come with me. I'll keep on doing this until and unless all the candidates are not interviewed. Is this effective and optimized way of processing? It will take time, right? If I am
Yes.
myself going every time outside, it will waste a lot of time. Yes or no? And especially if that reception area is some 100 meters away from the cabin, it will waste even more time. Yes or no? More the distance, more is the wastage of time. Correct? All agree?
Yes.
Another way is where I have one waiting area outside my cabin. Let's say one chair is there where the person in waiting can sit and wait for his or her turn. One candidate is with me within the cabin being interviewed. So the first candidate is done with the interview. What I do is I ask him or her to go out. While going out, send the next candidate waiting outside the cabin in and ask one more candidate in the main waiting area, maybe lobby or canteen, wherever, to come and wait outside the cabin. I will not move anywhere. And this I'll keep on doing until and unless all the candidates are not interviewed. And if there is no one to be interviewed further, most likely the last outgoing candidate itself will tell me that there is no one waiting outside the cabin. Outside the cabin, there is no one waiting. That means the entire queue is done. Yes or no? I need not check whether there is someone waiting further or not. The candidate themselves will let me know. What do you think? Which is more effective way, more optimized way? Case one or case two?
Phase two.
Case two, right? And that's what for each actually follows. For follows the case one, for each follows the case two. So while the first element is picked up for processing, the second element is also picked up and kept in waiting. The moment first element is done with the processing, the second element is called in and third element is put into the waiting. This keeps on happening until and unless there is nothing to be processed at all, after which for each automatically quits. And at the beginning itself is there is nothing in the collection or the array. It's empty. There are no members by default without giving any exception like index out of bound or something, because I will not be processing by index. I'll be processing by presence. So for each will just quietly quit. It won't do anything. It will just ignore the statements within it. So there will be no error. Absolutely no error. Do you get it? Yes. And that's why it is read only. I cannot modify the values. Okay, because I get a copy. I don't get the actual memory location. Got my point?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this pattern is something called as enumerated pattern. I enumerate all the members of the array or the collection in order to processing. Enumerate means keep one element in waiting all the time until and unless the entire collection is not finished. Got my point? Yes?
Yes.
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 Great. So that is all about the basic language constructs of C# language. You can further explore the arrays, not in detail, but yeah, the elementary things. Probably you can refer to tutorials point or W3 schools tutorials for C#, and within that just go through the arrays. That's the only thing which I'm not actually going through right now. The other advanced features we will be anyhow touching base on in the upcoming session. So just arrays is one topic where I want you to explore on your own. Okay, because it's a simple topic, and in some or the other language you might have already worked with arrays. So explicit discussion I feel is not needed. We can save some time and focus more on the advanced features. Make sense or not?
Yes, right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to the object oriented programming. Okay, what is important over here is the term object. So how do we define object? What is object? Anybody?
It's an instance of class.
Okay, I expected that. Anybody else? In layman terms, instance of class is correct. I'm not denying that. But if I am a
Any physical
layman,
existence? Any
sorry,
physical existence? Any physical existence?
okay, can you make it more simple?
It's a reference type.
A thing.
Make it more simpler. All are correct things. I just need more simpler version of the same.
Real world
Real-time
entity.
entity.
Real world entity. Okay. Can you further elaborate real world entity? What does it mean?
So object contain, I think, its properties, method, variables.
Yes.
Anything which is tangible.
Yes. So it's a real world entity, and anything is real world entity or object which has got its identity, unique identity. Each object should be uniquely identifiable, right? As an employee, how you are uniquely identified?
Employee
Employee
ID.
ID, right? And in government records, how you are being uniquely identified?
Aadhaar card, PAN card.
Aadhaar card mainly, right? Just hold on. I'm receiving some call. I have to take it. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry for that.
Yes.
Hey guys, I'm back. So we were discussing about object, and I hope everyone is clear about unique identity, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything needs to have unique identity. Then every object must have some state to represent itself. What is state? Like when I talk about employee object, ID is one thing, but apart from ID, which employee I'm talking about? How do we come to know about it?
Name.
Name, then the other details like what is the qualification, what are the skill sets, which department the employee is working in, right? Date of birth, date of joining, the post on which the employee is working, or the role in which the employee is working, right? These all details will precisely guide me about which employee I am actually talking about. Yes or no?
Yes.
So this is something which is represented by some characteristics. The values of the characteristics basically is what we call as state. Yes,
Yes.
at any given
Second,
point of time. Yeah.
by any chance, can we turn object as a data type means as it's means every class in C sharp we called as a type.
Yes.
So as okay.
Yes. Yes. So the top level entity in .NET is object only. And even your value types like integer, character, float, bool, date time, etc. are also derived from object only. So that we'll be discussing in upcoming sessions. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So apart from identity and state, what are the other two things which object needs to have?
Method. Behavior.
Yeah. So we have something called as responsibility, which translates to methods later on. So what is responsibility? What object should have as functionality? So if I talk about a bank account at minimum must give me a way to deposit amount, to withdraw amount, to check my balance. These are the minimum requirements from an bank account object. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's responsibility. And then any change in state of this object, right? Whenever happening, or maybe the change in state of some other object on which my current object depends. How my object responds to it. That is something what we call as behavior, which eventually translates to events. Understand? How my object responds to an event, how my object responds to change in state of itself or maybe some dependent object, how my object responds to any message coming to it. That is something what we call as behavior. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, so like whenever you do any transaction from your bank account via UPI, via NEFT or any other mean, do you get a message or not? Sometimes you get mail also. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So how that is happening? Because there is a responsibility playing its role and which is changing the state of the object. Then your object's behavior is to send a message or dispatch a message either as SMS or WhatsApp message or mail or all of them. That is its behavior configured for it. Yes or no?
Yeah, right.
Now, one key thing over here is if you just go some 10-15 minutes backwards, I was focusing mainly on the very simple definition of object, layman's definition, right? Whatever you said was all correct. I mentioned that also, but that was too technical. Technical people will understand what you said, but layman will not. Now, the key thing here is whenever we talk about object oriented programming, it was introduced to make the entire understanding of the software solutions easy. Converting everything into objects, real world objects, makes it easy to understand what's expected, right? Now, if that is the point, even the definitions are supposed to be as simple and easy, understandable by the layman also for the same reason, right? Because these days we work in agile teams. Within agile teams, there is a product owner. Product owner may or may not be a technical person. Now, if suppose that person is not technical one, how he will understand what you are talking about? If you just use technical terms, the person will not understand anything. Once it comes to the objects, okay, I'm talking about account, I'm talking about bank, I'm talking about customer, I'm talking about employee. It becomes easy for the entire team to interact with each other. Whether all members are technical or there is a mix of crowd, technical, non-technical, semi-technical, whatever it is, understanding is still easy. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's where object-oriented programming focuses on. So always make sure that you talk in very, very simple language. That will make object-oriented programming, the understanding of it much more easier, which will make your problem solving much more easier as well. Because you'll start thinking in easy terms, right? How to break down the problem statement into simple things and then understand it and then get the solution. The solution also should be so easy to understand for a layman that just anyone can understand it. Make sense? Now let's
Yes.
talk about object-oriented programming. What it is. Any programming which is done within and around objects completely is what we call as object-oriented programming, right?
Okay.
And the entire object-oriented programming basically is based on some standards, what we also call as object-oriented programming pillars, right? To make the overall understanding and overall implementation simpler. There are mainly four pillars of object-oriented programming, also called as major pillars. Can someone name them in sequence? I'll put initials of all to make it
Abstraction,
Uh,
easy.
Abstraction, encapsulation,
Abstraction,
encapsulation,
abstraction,
encapsulation,
encapsulation.
polymorphism.
polymorphism,
Yes. Before that, there is one thing missed, important one, without which polymorphism may not work.
Inheritance.
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 Correct. So the first is abstraction, right? What is abstraction? Very easy language I want.
Show only what is necessary.
Hiding complexity and showing functionality.
In other words, can I say it is a process of just identifying what is the minimum expectation from the object,
Yes, yes.
whether it is in terms of data, whether it is in terms of functionality, events, or anything. Minimum requirement is what I said with abstraction. Now, this is closely related to your abstract class concept, right? If you have worked with object-oriented programming in any object-oriented language, abstract class is something which you may have 100% worked with. So this abstraction is closely related to that. Now look at what abstract class actually contain. Abstract definitions, right? Some data members, some methods. Yes or no? Without body, without implementation, just signatures are there. Yes or no?
Right. Yes.
Even if you work with interfaces, if supported by your language, that also is the type of abstraction only. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right? So ultimately what it is picking or focusing only on the minimum expectations from that object. So that's where your other definitions also get justified. Hiding non-important things, showing only the important things, right? So showing means what? I expect minimum this thing from it. Rest what it does, I don't care. It may have some additional features, but at least these are the things which I do expect from it. Got my point?
Yeah.
Okay. Any real life example for this apart from the bank? Employee object, say for example, what will be put in the abstraction? Employee ID, employee name, age, date of birth, date of joining, department number, job level or post, right? In terms of data, this is the minimum requirement from employee object. Then
We have a car, like we are driving car and we have only a steering in hand.
hmm, so when I
And
say
then
car, it has to be some vehicle which is carrying more than one person, right? And taking me from point A to point B with more safety. Because if it is just about carrying person, even two-wheeler does that, right? Easy handling should be there. So apart from, I mean, compared to two-wheeler, the handling of four-wheeler is much more easy. I don't need to balance it. And with steering, I can give the guidance for the direction, correct? Controls are much more easier. And then if it is covered one, it gives me protection from sunlight, dust, rains, etc. Yes or no? That is what is minimum expected thing from a car, especially when I say family car. Yes or no? It should be able to carry the whole family, 4 or 5 people. Yes,
Yes.
that's something what we say is abstraction. Okay. Next is encapsulation. What is it? Practically, the showing hiding is applicable more to encapsulation. There might be a lot of things which I might be doing with the help of the object, but I may not want everything to be visible and accessible by the user. Yes or no?
Yes.
Like, again, going back to the car itself, I accelerate. So for me, what is important is accelerator. Exactly what is happening after pressing the accelerator pedal is not my thing. I brake. For that, I press a pedal. What happens exactly behind scenes to apply the brakes, it's not my thing. For me, what is important is when I press the pedals, what I'm expecting should be carried out. Yes or no? When I press brake pedal, car should stop. When I press accelerator, the speed should increase. Yes. When I move the steering, the direction of my vehicle should change. Moving it to right should change the direction to right. Moving it to left, change the direction to left. Am I correct? That's what
Yes.
encapsulation
Yes.
is all about. So that's where the access modifiers come in: public, private, protected. And as I said, in .NET, we have two more: internal and protected internal, in addition to the common three: public, private, protected. So these access modifier help us to set up encapsulation. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Next is inheritance. What is inheritance in simple terms? An ability of an object to derive its state, responsibility, and behavior from some other object via some relationship. That is inheritance. Yes. Now, what that relationship could be? It could be is a relationship, or it could be an has a
Has
relationship.
a
Now, this is where we say is a actually is inheritance and has a is containment. Containment is a type of inheritance only. Containment means where one object owns another object. Like car has engine. So car owns engine. Yes or no?
yes.
Yes.
Car controls how the engine will behave or how it will
Yes.
work. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
And is a relationship, typical inheritance means employee is a person. Salesman is an employee, which is a person. So indirectly, salesman is a person also. So via the direct relationship, the state, responsibility, and behaviors are acquired from the other object by the current one. And with has a relationship, it's via ownership. I own this object, so whatever functionality it has got, I own it. I use it. I have my own wrappers to actually give input to it and get output from it. Probably I'll not let that object interact with the users of my object directly. I will provide accessors on the top of it. So in a way, HASA also promotes encapsulation. Yes or no? Yes or no? So
Yes.
if I
Yes.
say there is a class person which has got ID, name, date of birth, current address, permanent address, etc. And then there is a class employee which inherits from person. Colon is the operator for the same, which has got department number, salary. I'm saying salary, there could be different components of salary as well. And manager, designation means post, etc. There could be other things also. So can I say employee already has got ID, name and date of birth inherited from person class? Yes, it does. That's what is a relationship is. Yes or no? Similarly,
Yes.
if I have class car, within which I have got a member called as class engine. Because this engine is not a common engine for all cars, all vehicles. Probably this is a custom made engine for a specific car type, right? Then I will not have a separate engine class whose instance is added as a member of the car. Rather, I will have the class engine defined as a member of the class car directly, encapsulated into it. And if required, I can make it private also, right? This is something what represents has a relationship. Is it clear? Now, next is polymorphism. What is polymorphism? In simple terms, it is the ability of an object to respond or behave differently in different contexts. Your boss calling you, your response might be calling you by name. Your response might be different. Your parents calling you, response might be different, little more casual, right? If your
Correct.
younger brother or sister calling you, it will be even more casual. And if it is a friend, it will be completely casual. So depending on which context the same message is being called, message is same, input is same, but which context is there, your behavior changes, your response changes. That is what we call as polymorphism. That's why sometimes we get the definition ability of taking multiple forms, right? Multiple forms on what basis? Based on in which context it is being used. Yes or no? So what all
Yes.
things come into
Yes.
this? Mainly here what we have is something called as late binding, which represents your polymorphic behavior. So under late binding, what all things come? We don't have method overloading anymore being considered as polymorphism. Method overloading is just method overloading. It's not polymorphism because there the message gets changed. Method overloading means what? I have an add method which takes in two integers. I have another add method which takes in two strings. Now see, your message itself is changing. It's not the same input which is going in. Whereas the definition of polymorphism says input message has to be same. Context needs to be changed. In our case of polymorphism, what is happening? Context is remaining the same, but the input message is getting changed. So it's not polymorphism anymore. Understood? Earlier, it used to be considered as polymorphism, but with the recent studies, polymorphism is not considered, method overloading is not considered as polymorphism anymore. Is it clear? So what all comes here? Method overriding mainly, and then .NET comes with another one, something called as method hiding. That's what we call as polymorphism. Both are actually responsible, I mean, workable with late binding only. Late binding is all about context. Context being changed. Input message might be the same. Your behavior is changing because of context. So it is called as late binding. Is that clear?
Yes.
Everybody, I just repeat one more time. Method overloading is not considered as polymorphism anymore. You might have learned that, you have to unlearn it now. Is it clear?
Right. Yes.
Yes.
I told you the
Yes.
reason also why it is not polymorphism. Just go by the definition, you will get it. Message has to be same, context has to be different. So with method overloading, that's not the case. Their context remains same, message gets changed. Right? That doesn't go with the definition of polymorphism. Hence the change. Okay. Now let's talk a bit about constructors. Tomorrow we are going to see, I mean, in the next session, we are going to see the implementation of all these concepts. What is the role of a constructor and what is its counterpart? Counterpart, first of all, is something what we call as finalizer in general. And depending on which programming language you are using, there could be specific names like Java and C Sharp basically use the term called as destructor. Even C++ uses the term destructor. VB.NET on the other hand calls it as finalizer only. Understood? Now, what is the role
Yes.
of each of them? What is constructor? Constructs object. Destructor destructs objects. Is that the case practically applicable in Java and .NET? No, because your memory allocation and deallocation is automatic in both the frameworks. Yes or no?
Yes.
Garbage collector takes care of destruction. Directly taken care of by your language itself. Whenever you say, I need new object of this, so whatever memory required to get the object actually created, the allocation of the same is entirely taken care of by your runtime. So in case of Java, it is Java runtime, JVM, or in case of .NET, it is taken care of by CLR. Yes. So what they do actually in these languages then, these frameworks, constructors are responsible to act as initializers. Means the member data initialization can be done by using constructors. Your memory allocation need not be taken care of here. Only the initialization of the members needs to be taken care of. What values they will start with. Is that clear?
Yes.
And what finalizers will do? Garbage collector is already there to collect the garbage. So what they will do? They will de-initialize. Just reverse of what constructor do. Means if any values are assigned, any references are assigned to your objects, they will be first of all de-initialized to defaults, and then that GC will collect them. So basically, I need to say I'm not using this object anymore by assigning null to it. Got my point? Once I assign
Right.
null,
Yes.
I declare that I'm no more using it. And then JC knows that, okay, this object is no more being used anywhere, so I can collect it. I can remove it, delete it, and the memory can be reclaimed, which can be used for something else. Understood?
Right.
I hope the concept is clear here. Let's talk about methods. What are methods and why they are called so? Methods are essentially the functions. Why they are called as methods then? Because they contain step-by-step instruction set for achieving something important. Like when I say deposit operation needs to be done within a bank account. It contains step-by-step logic uh, for including the calculation for making the deposit possible. Understand? Like read the balance, add the amount, check if it is not going over limit. If not, then actually update the balance. If over limit is happening, then probably notify the user that you are going over limit than the sanctioned one for your account. Similarly, in case of withdraw, we need to check the lowest balance, minimum balance, right? So step-by-step instructions are there. And that's why it is called as method. What is the method of depositing? In bank, manually, if I want to do a deposit, I'll not ask someone to tell me what is the function of depositing. I'll ask someone to tell me what is the method of depositing cash. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's more natural language that we use while working with object-oriented programming. Clear?
Yes.
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 Okay, so we are done with the conceptual part of the major object-oriented programming concepts. Next session, we will be implementing them initially, and then we'll be moving into some advanced object-oriented principles like patterns and practices, and then solid principles, gang of four design patterns, etc. So that will be the content for next two sessions, in fact. Yes,
Yes.
telling you that
Yes.
so that you can come with some pre-reading done on the same, and that will help us understanding the concept more easily. Right? So gang of four patterns and solid principles is something I would request you to just go through a bit. Clear?
Yes.
That is it
Sorry,
for
first
today.
one, can you repeat?
Gang of four patterns, design patterns. GOF,
Okay.
gang of fours, design patterns.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So that includes design pattern definition also, right? And solid principles. So just do some pre-study on the same. It will make understanding easy. Okay, so that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the session today as well. See you on Friday, 9:30 a.m. Bye-bye till
Thank
then.
you. Thank you, Saket.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yes.
Thanks,
Thank
Saket.
you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank
Preeti, are you there?
Ankita, you can tell me, I'll pass on the message to Preeti.
No, Saket. I was just inquiring about the recordings of the both the classes.
Okay. So is it started by Preeti or is it started
No,
by
it
someone
is
else?
by Preeti itself, as
Okay.
she's the admin. So.
Okay, she has created the link, is it?
Yes, yes, correct. The link
Okay,
has been
I'll
shared
ask
by
her.
all.
I'll ask her to share the details with you. Mostly
Sure,
what
sure.
she does is she uploads it on YouTube and the same
Okay.
link is forwarded by her. So I'll just remind her.
Oh,
No worries.
oh, all right, sure, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Saket.
Thank you.
See you on Friday, Saket. Good day.
Yeah, sure. Bye-bye.